Dune Awakening has been out for a good chunk of time at this point, and there are still plenty of people newly joining to Arrakis for the first time. Whether you've been playing for 5 hours or 50 hours, there are plenty of little secrets the game has hidden within its UI, or all the many management systems within the game. In this video today, I want to go over some advanced tips to help you get the upper hand as you hit the mid and late game of Dune Awakening. In my typical fashion of upfronting the knowledge of my videos, let me give you a rundown of what we'll be going over. For starters, a lot of what we'll be talking about today is geared towards planning out your base, because that will take up the lion's share of your time in Dune, since most if not everything is done via your base. In addition, we'll talk about the differences between short and long blades, how shields work, how to defeat heavy gunners, as well as some fun inventory management things you can do to help curtail the tedium when resource farming. You can navigate to any part of the topics, you can navigate to any of the topics in this video using the chapters with the timeline in the description. So take a look at those and see if anything stands out to you. But that's the too long didn't watch this entire video. So if that's all you wanted to know, please feel free to shut the video down. I want to be respectful of your time. If you are heading out and you found the information in this video helpful, please don't forget to like, comment, or subscribe, as each one of those helps me out in a huge way. Lastly, you can find links below to my other Dune videos, as well as my Twitch, where I will be doing plenty of playthroughs of this game and other ones. But let's get started on advanced tips to get better at Dune Awakening. Powering up your base is a huge part of Dune, because remember, keeping that power online makes it so you can use everything, and it keeps your shields online so that the sandstorms don't slowly degrade your base. But you can jump around to every single generator if you want. Open it up and press this button here. You can deposit it and it will turn on these generators. You can do that for every single generator if you want. Maybe you have an odd number of fuel cells that's not going to fit every single thing. There's a way to get around this very quickly though. You come over here to your fief console and you come over here to refuel generators. Hold down that button. And now all the generators have all of your stock of fuel cells equally distributed across all of the different generators. So you see that they're all probably about to 85, 86% now with what I have. And I can just do this to really make this process a lot easier. The way that you really want to streamline it is, of course, making sure you drop all of those fuel cells in a container first, or have them in your backpack, and then come over here and do that refueling. And that'll take care of everything and you don't have to worry about it. And then you'll see powering down in 17 days. It gives you a direct correlation between that circuit and how much energy is in it. Ghost walls are another really great way to create things that maybe you weren't able to do, either force fields or certain supporting structures, whatever it is. Now, a ghost wall implies that we're going to create it like this, and we're not going to delete it. But when we shut off our, oops, I don't want that there. I want it one more up. When we shut off our building tool, not there, right? So we've got these 4 walls set up. And the internal portion of this is where our force field is going to be. So we're going to go back over to utilities, choose our vertical surface, go ahead and select a force field here, force field there, there, and there. So we'll build those. Of course, we're going to want to have a force field above. So we'll just have those built. So that looks pretty great, right? And of course, you want something bigger if you're going to land an ornithopter into it or whatever it is, but this is how you get away with it. And you can see that we can't really do that, right? So we then have to make ghost ceilings or ghost roofs. So we're going to click over to here, press this. I know I'm currently dying from dehydration. We'll just go ahead and drink some of my pee, because that's what you do in the universe of Dune, and go back to utilities, go with our horizontal, and you can see this will now latch onto those fake walls, those fake roofs. So when you look at it through the builder, you're like, ah, man, that's not too great, right? You pop it off, there you go. So obviously you'd make this bigger for an ornithopter, but this is a great way to allow you to have a floating space for an ornithopter. Another way to do this too would just simply be to create the corner walls, like these curved ones, and actually build them and use those as your scansions. But if you don't like that look and you want something that's kind of a little more free floating, this is how you would get around it. Now, of course, too, you can use ghost walls to help you create stuff like this. Like maybe you want this to sink back further into your base. You can create a ghost wall for it to attach to, then build it, and then never delete that wall. So ghost walls are a really great way to get around the limitations of the current building system, and it's a way that you can even take a look at some of the structures in the game to see how the developers have cheated by using ghost walls. Taxes are, of course, a tricky thing, and your Sub-fief console gives you a lot of information when it comes to your taxes. Of course, you have this button, or this area over here that says taxes due. But in the lower left corner, you can see your taxation, how many Solari are due per cycle, and unpaid, overdue, defaulted amount, so on and so forth. But you can get around how that Solari per cycle increases. Every time you put an expansion onto your base, it's going to increase the amount of Solaris that you owe. So you can dodge this. Well, you can dodge it for a cycle. You basically place your Sub-fief console, pay your taxes, and then go ahead and do your expansions. So then you pay this amount the next time you have to do it. But expanding your Sub-fief console also has some other effects. All of these stats right here, for the exception of, I think light is always 60. All of these things increase as you put more expansions onto your base. We're going to come out over here. I'm going to show you my base, the skybox of my base, because I'm currently building it out. If I go ahead and go into the construction menu, you can see I have placed, this is the original, the parent console is this, here, let me switch this to something a little bit more less obtrusive. This parent box is the original placement of my Sub-fief. And then that one is a new one, a new one, a new one, a new one, and a new one. So you can see you can expand 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 total times with your horizontal fief console, placement expansions. Your vertical ones don't seem to have a limit. So you can see that I go up pretty high over here, but also I go really far. Well, if I climb over my damn base that I've not built out, I go really far down here. You can see it goes all the way down to that. So placing another vertical one will expand you up and down, or up the z-axis, both directions. So you can really try to monopolize that as best you can. Dealing with heavy gunners is pretty tricky. Either heavy gunners or flamers. There's a lot of ways you can do it. You have to remember they're using shields, right? So whenever they go to shoot at you, you can simply pull your gun out and shoot at them. This allows you to take them down. If you're using a pistol or whatever, you can just go ahead and do it. Now, in this little clip here, it's pulled from another video, but one of the things that you're going to notice is if you just get up close and personal, they'll do that. They'll shoot that little aura. It's going to slow you down and drain your stamina. So that's not what you want to have happen, right? You don't want to just jump in there with a weapon and just go to town on them. Instead, you want to try to use your abilities or your gun. So as we see here, anytime they use their machine gun or their flamethrower, you'll have to wait for it. Their shields are up right now. Their shields are off. But we can also use abilities. Even something like a Shiga wire, just like this, shuts them down. You'd have to go do a slow blade into them, but you can use plenty of other abilities that give you any kind of momentum that either staggers them or gets behind them. The Bene Gesserit's ability right here, we would have killed them if we let that slow blade go through. But if you're maybe playing a Swordmaster too, you started with a really cool knee thing, go ahead and go in, and boom, they're dead. So go ahead and use all these tools at your disposal to defeat heavy gunners as well as flamethrowers. Planning out your Sub-fief is also a big portion of this game because base building is pretty huge. So you have your Sub-fief and your advanced Sub-fief. For this example, I'm going to use a Sub-fief just because I don't have enough room to place an advanced one. But what you should really do is two big things. For one, we want to monopolize, it's the second time I've used this damn term. We want to take advantage of as much vertical space as we can. So I'm going to jump into the builder here. And you can see this is the Sub-fief, just a standard one. If I place this right here, you see that little box down at the bottom? Look how much vertical land I'm losing by placing this here. Well, you can get around this by, let's go ahead and place this down. That places this Sub-fief right here, and does say no power, don't worry about that. What we're going to do then is just go back to our structure. Oops, go to structures and place some foundations. We want to try to maximize the height on these foundations by pressing left control and just scoop all the way up, maximize the height. You don't need to make, you could use walls if you wanted. Build these. think we can do one more. I think it's like 3 or 4 is the limit on the standard Sub-fief. Yeah, so we'll go up here. And you can see we're about at the top of this thing, right? You can see. But a lot of that ground is lost underneath us. So we're going to go demolish this Sub-fief now. It's going to lose our claim. Don't worry about that. And then we're going to immediately try to do this as quick as you can. You want anyone to steal it from you. Try to get back to creating this on this level. Now, in this case, I might have messed this up because I made it a little too close to my parent base or to a no build zone. But you want to try to make this, I guess I got to make it like around here so it looks like. So yeah, I would want this to go, let's just do this real quick. Just to show a roof, you know, place this right here. And this will allow us to do it. And then we'll demolish that one down there real fast again. Yes, I know. Build it again. So now you can see that we get, this is too high up in this example, but we have all of that Z-axis to take advantage of. So we probably wouldn't do 1, 2, 3, 4 total blocks up, just 3. But even then, that's just going to give us more vertical height to take advantage of. We don't really care about the bottom, right? Because we can't go through the bottom. But this allows us on just a basic Sub-fief to take advantage of as much as we can vertically. Of course, in an advanced Sub-fief, this is different because we have even more room to take advantage of. So you do need to be careful and make sure you've space this out properly. But there's another portion of this we want to talk about. That is planning out the horizontal distance in which we can expand our Sub-fief. So I'm going to bring back up this console and I'm just going to place this here, right? We want to just put this down somewhere so I can get a bearance of where this is. Now, if I'm just placing these Sub-fiefs, my expansion, any expanders that I use are going to duplicate the Sub-fief that we're using. So if I'm using this Sub-fief, anytime I do a horizontal expansion, it's going to use exactly this size box. So I can use this to get an idea of any kind of room I can expand to. Like, okay, over here, I can't make it work because I'm too close to this building or that red zone. Well, what about up? All right, well, I'm too close to this building over here, but could I get anything up? Looks like I'd be okay. So I'm good to go here, at least vertically. Taking advantage of using the building tool to set up at least 1 or 2 expansions worth of Sub-fief so you have an idea of where you can expand to is pretty huge. I didn't do that. With my very first base, I had built out this really cool base. It was awesome. But then I butted up against one of these red no build zones and I didn't even realize it. And that completely shut down my expansions. I ended up moving because my base was limited. So use this tool to map out how you want to use the expanders before you really place your base. Because if you can't expand enough, it's going to frustrate you. You're going to waste time and you're going to end up moving to a different location so that you can't expand. One last note here on fiefs is the difference between a Sub-fief and an advanced Sub-fief. I believe when it comes to the Sub-fief, you do not pay a tax on it if you have an advanced Sub-fief, period. But advanced Sub-fiefs are much larger and can house more overall everything, more storage units, more building tiles, all of it, but they have increasing amounts of taxation. It's a 10 by 10 by 13 spot. So you've got that to also consider. I think it's 10 by 10 as far as X and Y, and then 13 on the vertical or the Z axis, as it were. This gives you an idea of how to map those things out. So placing or choosing a Sub-fief is pretty crucial. So I would say for your base, use an advanced Sub-fief. For some sort of outpost where you just want some place to drop off things, or maybe use in the deep desert, just use your normal fief so that you don't have to deal with as much building size, as much taxation, so on and so forth. But the difference between those two is pretty huge when it comes to just making your base. You're going to want to do it with an advanced Sub-fief. Shields are a big portion of this game. It's how you're going to be deflecting a lot of range shots. It's how you're going to be dealing with melee. And there are a lot of bits of contention on how shield works. I even got this wrong in one of my videos. The shield only has, has 0 damage mitigation from your armor. The shield will only basically be based off of your power pack. Your power pack delivers your power pool. That is the shield health. And how much shield damage you take is based off this little number at the very bottom that says power drain percentage. The lower the mark of the shield, the higher that number. The higher the mark of the shield, the lower that number. So if this number were to just say 90, it would be different than if it said 150, because 150 means every time that shield takes damage, it's going to drain more power against your overall power pool. That is the only thing that matters when it comes to your shield. It has no, any armor mitigation you have is only dealt with when your shield breaks, or if you're dealing with a drill shot or slow blade that would otherwise bypass your shield and go right into your armor. Armor mitigation only is dealt with any blow that completely bypasses or is already through your shield. You have a choice between long blades and short blades in Dune Awakening. Depending on what skills you're going with, Bene Gesserit versus Swordsman, that might determine how you choose your blade. But in the confines of short and long blade, you have 2 different types. When it comes to short blade, there is no difference between the Kinjal or the Dirk. They both perform exactly the same, and they have the exact same stats. I'm caveat here, we'll talk about at the end of the section. But when it comes to your long blade, you have a choice between the sword or the rapier. Now, these don't have the same stats. You can see on just the base level, the House Rapier has 28.5 DPS and 139 attack speed, versus the sword has a higher DPS at 31.3, but a lower attack speed. The rapier shares the same speed as all short blades, 139, 139. It will have slightly higher or the same DPS depending on what the schematic says. The advantage here is that the rapier is going to benefit from an a better reach. It has a lunge as a sprinting attack, but also has a lunge as the first attack in a combo. So the rapier is going to give you much better range. The sword is going to give you a 90-degree cone in front of you damage arc, as well as anytime you parry, that same 90-degree cone in front of you is going to act as a disorienting blast. So anything that's in that 90 degree is going to get staggered. That's the difference between these 2 weapons. Now, one thing to note, though, is with these 3, the 2 short blades and the rapier, they have the same speed. Anything that has a faster speed than another weapon, so for example, the rapier has 139 versus the sword that has 105, can parry that slower weapon in the middle of a combo. So if an NPC is using a sword to attack you and you're using any of the 3 other melee weapons, you can use parry in the middle of a combo rather than having to dodge out of it. That's a big, huge thing that you might not know. Now, of course, the one last note on that is that know that schematics are always going to break the rules of everything in the game. So here is your poison mist long blade that has a pretty high DPS, and it's also going to apply poison. So just know that learning the base rules of all weapons in the game, ranged or melee, and even armor too, right, then gets broken by schematics that will sometimes add in a little bit of spice from maybe a short blade, or maybe the difference between light and heavy armor is that the light armor portion of the schematic will have the same armor of a heavy armor, whatever it is. So know that schematics will always break these base rules, but that's how long and short blades work. Focus on your journeys. I cannot tell you how important these are, because they might seem like, they're just quests. Well, I don't want to deal with the main story. Just get it done with. If you do the main story, you're going to unlock a lot of things that really help you out with the pain points you are going to have in this game. And I'm assuming you have already probably put like 20, 30 hours into this game, and you're probably around Anvil, or you've moved beyond Anvil, and you're still having water issues. Finish the story, those water issues will go away. Maybe you're around aluminum and you're dealing with a lot of that. Finish the story, a lot of these issues go away. But the biggest thing to know when it comes to your journey, all quests period, is that you don't want these things to slack behind. So let's kind of look over here. This is all the ones around Anvil. These are the ones around Helios Gate, around Crossroads. Those places on the map are also correlate to relative difficulty, right? So if you kind of let things go and you don't really do anything, by the time you want to go knock it out, you're going to be really bored, because you're sitting there going to go, okay, I'm just hanging out around Anvil and I'm in Duralinium and I'm just completely crapping on everything. There's no real challenge here. This is not as fun. Just do it as you're playing through. Try to knock these things out. I personally spent so much time trying to tech up that by the time I got to a good point of tech and wanted to go do some of these, I spent a long time over here. And I was like, wow, I'm way so far beyond this. It's a good thing I have an ornithopter, or else I'd be way more pissed off. If you do the quests in conjunction with what you're trying to hit research-wise, you'll find that they're going to pull you around the things that you need the most for your research. And it's a real fun and enjoyable gameplay loop. Leaving one behind and progressing the other, either quests or technology, is going to make the game a little bit more of a slog for you, a little bit more painful, and you're going to find yourself in boring loops where you're fighting really weak enemies. Now I'm kind of always fighting enemies that match my tech level, and it's a very fun gameplay loop. Sort of on that note too, make sure you listen to some of these quests. I know that, like, man, I come from the MMO world, right? Of all MMORPGs. After World of Warcraft, we've just kind of clicked our way through accept quests, go do it, accept quests, go do it, go to the quest hub, dump, and rinse and repeat. Think of Dune Awakening more along the lines of like a Star Wars The Old Republic, which is the MMO version of Knights of the Old Republic 1 and 2. There's a lot of really good, juicy narrative that happens here. And if you're a big diehard Dune fan, you're going to love that narrative. If you're maybe not so much a Dune fan and you maybe watch the movies and you still don't understand what the hell's going on, watch the narrative. The narrative for these it's not that long. They're pretty quick. And as you get to these last portions, you're really going to get a lot bigger portion of narrative. But even just simply doing all of your advancement quests for all the classes, they're really interesting. They're way cooler than I thought they were. And I was starting to click through most of them. But then I went to go do the trooper one. And I was like, why is this woman yelling at me so much? Because she's addicted to spice and she's got terrible PTSD. And it's a really cool and engaging story that I just would have otherwise completely bypassed. It does slow down my journey progression. So if you really are someone who's like a sweaty tryhard that just wants to get to the very end and trying to jump into deep desert as hard as you can, then just ignore this fact. But I think enjoying the journey through this and slowing down has inadvertently made me slower to get to the end game. But at the same time, I've enjoyed this process more, especially because I know that the end game right now is in a bit of shambles with the balance. So at least I can enjoy this journey up to it. And by the time I get there, it's hopefully balanced out and more enjoyable. This might seem silly, but use respawn beacons. Only one beacon can be active at a time. Placing a new beacon will replace the existing one. That's fine. You're going to go do a dungeon, just take one with you. You don't even need to take one with you. You can make it off of your person, right? You can just go into this, go into crafting, and you can make a respawn beacon just on your person. It's 20 salvage metal. If you're going through like a dungeon, you're probably going to find that by happenstance. Use respawn beacons, because there's nothing more frustrating than getting to the very bottom of a dungeon and dying through just some crap that overwhelmed you, you didn't know was going to be there, or it's back spawned, you didn't know it was there and it caught you unaware. Using these things is huge. And you can also kind of use these things to cheese around. So if what I mean by that is, let's say I'm over here and I want to harvest, I don't know, basalt. It's not over here, but it's over here. I want to harvest this stuff over here. Well, you go ahead and drop a respawn beacon over here. You can kind of use the capability, press escape and then press, well, there's the respawn button to jump back and forth between those points. And you use it by simply loading up your ornithopter into your vehicle thing, this little guy right here, and just going back and forth. So you can get kind of cheesy with respawn. I don't recommend that as much, but I definitely think you should be using respawn beacons more. I wasn't using respawn beacons. And then I got to a point in the game where things were starting to get a little more overwhelming with status effects like poison and flamethrowers. And I found that respawn beacons were a saving grace in situations that I was like, I don't need these respawn beacons. The AI is not that hard. There were little points where it really did get sticky. And like I said, too, you can use it for harvesting. Remember, too, for spawn beacons, you can also use your vehicle. Just like it says right there, you press accept, and it sets your vehicle as a spawn beacon. Now, this isn't always the best because sometimes you're going to put that vehicle back into the special tool for it, but it's nice for buggies when you're trying to go around and do any kind of mineral farming. You can use that vehicle as a spawn beacon. Or if you're using an ornithopter or a sand bike of any kind and you are using the inventory module and you load it up, you can't stow it, right? So this allows you to spawn on this in case you maybe drop off of a big cliff. Whatever the situation is, you at least have that vehicle to spawn back on, so you're not lost in a lot of progress trying to get back to the vehicle or location you once were. Cutterays are how you're going to harvest in this game. And it's important to understand how they scale, because using a better Cutteray, or the Buggy Cutteray, which will be our next tip, is important. Because let's take a look at this. Here's just the basic copper one. And we're just going to look at copper, granite, and salvage metal for all these, because usually the next level of Cutteray allows you to do a different resource. But the mining yield on this is 48. And that's why when you go to do it, it says poor mining yield. Well, when you jump to this one, that says 72 for the same three products, or same three materials. Well, what about Mark III? That says 104. What about Mark IV? That says 136. So you can see that that's pretty huge. Let's jump over here to the Buggy to talk about that one really quickly. This one says 255. So you can see that advancing your Cutteray either on your Buggy or on your individual hands helps you to really drastically increase the amount that you're getting. I was hanging out with this one for a long time, trying to get my aluminum. This is 36. Well, this one's 72. Oh, I'm sorry, it's 48. Got hung up by Jasmium. That's 48. And if you're lucky enough, you can go here. I've got it on my person. You can go ahead and grab one of the special ones, and that's 63. So from 48 to 63, getting the advanced schematics for these Cutterays is pretty huge because it allows you to really gather a lot more in one go. Fuel is important, right? That's how you're going to fuel your base. And getting those fuel cells can be kind of tedious. They're really heavy. Use your Buggy to do them. We talked about how the Cutteray is that much better on a Buggy. So we're going to go over here, switch to this. We've got it right there. Let's see how much we're going to get out of this. This is just one node, man. Should, depending on what it is, you'll get upwards to 600, 700, depending on what mark of Cutteray Buggy you've got. And really, if you take a look at it too, I don't know why I got out of the vehicle to do this. Take a look at our inventory. It's not taking up that much volume. So it's easy to get 2, 3, 4 stacks of 500 from 1 or 2 nodes using your Buggy. And then you're pretty much set for quite a bit of energy for a long time. You just go ahead and use that to really take advantage of supplying your base with energy. So we just talked about mining with our Buggy, but this is important for Buggies, ornithopters, everything, as long as it is within the confines of your Sub-fief console, advanced or otherwise. You've got this little drop down right here. If you click it, anything that's alive in the actual fief, even if it's a friend's one that you have access to, you can then switch to that storage and then just drop it into your storage. That way you don't have to go ahead and haul these, which you probably can't. 100 volume on this one and 22 volume on that one. You have to be pretty naked to bring this into your base. Then you just go ahead and go over to your console, like the other tip we talked about, refueling generators, and boom, it's all good. No longer in here and taken care of, or well, in this case, so it's all tapped out and maxed out. But this is a great way to navigate a lot of really heavy items out of your Buggy, especially if you're trying to do a bunch of aluminum mining, a bunch of etherite crystal, all sorts of things. And at that, it brings our video here to a close. Now, there are so many other little things that I could have gone into here, right? I didn't talk anything about Deep Desert. I didn't talk anything about trying to leverage the different vendors for Atreides or Harkonnen to be able to get their opposing swatches or build sets or whatever. There's lots of little things. So if you have any advanced tips you wish you had known, not those beginner tips where it's like, yeah, make sure that you have a thing to stow your vehicle, but the stuff that you discovered maybe just yesterday and you have 100+ hours in the game. For example, the fuel thing with the Buggy, I literally did discover that yesterday and I've been playing this game for however long, So that's an example of like more of an advanced tip that I wouldn't have needed to know as a beginner because I had no concept of what a Buggy is or how fuel is important to the character or to Dune. But those advanced tips really help you kind of get a little bit of an edge or at least streamline some of those things. So whatever you've got advanced tip wise, let it be known in the comment section below. But as always, guys, thank you so much for watching here today. Have a good one and take care.